In 1990, a woman was killed in a hit and run. Simple case, right? Except the man who claimed to be her husband wasn't her husband, and the name on her ID wasn't her real name. And by the time investigators figured out who she actually was, they'd uncovered a kidnapping, multiple identities, and a decades-long nightmare that started when she was only 6 years old. This is the story of the girl who had 5 different names and died without knowing which one was hers. April 1990, Oklahoma City. A group of men are driving on Interstate Service Road when they notice something on the side of the road. At first, they consider that it's just some debris, but something makes them pull over to check. It's a woman and she's lying on the pavement, groceries all scattered around her. She's been hit by a car and her clothes are torn. There's cuts and bruises all over her body. They call 911 and paramedics rush her to the Presbyterian hospital nearby. She's unconscious, slipping in and out of consciousness. When she does speak, she's crying out the same thing over and over. Daddy, Daddy. And then after a few hours, a man does show up to the hospital. He's 41 and says his name is Clarence Marcus Hughes. The injured woman is his wife, Tanya Hughes. She's 20 years old. They're staying in a nearby Motel 6 with their 2-year-old son, Michael. They drove down from Tulsa and Tanya just went out to get some groceries. Clarence says he was waiting at the motel when he got the call. Doctors would go on to examine Tanya's injuries. She's got cuts and bruises, some fresh, some are clearly older. There's a scratch on her chest that looks like she's been in a few fights. But here's what's strange. Her injuries don't quite match a hit and run. There's no broken bones. The impact pattern is off. It looks more like she was hit from behind, lifted up, and then thrown over the car. Almost like someone knew exactly how to fake this kind of accident. 5 days later, Tanya Hughes dies from her injuries, and police open a typical hit-and-run investigation. All standard procedures are followed. They would interview Clarence, ask about their life in Tulsa, how long they've been married, all the background on Tanya and who she was. And Clarence gives them answers, but something feels off. After Tanya's death, Clarence does something strange. He takes their 2-year-old son Michael to Oklahoma State Welfare, and he hands them over. He just gives up his kid, says he can't take care of him because he needs mental help. And then Clarence Hughes disappears. Investigators start digging into who Clarence Hughes actually is. They pull his social security number from the life insurance policy that he took out on Tanya, and they discover something. Clarence Marcus Hughes isn't his real name. His real name is Franklin Delano Floyd, and he's a federal fugitive, been on the run since 1973. When they pull his criminal record, it gets even worse. In 1963, Floyd was convicted of kidnapping and raping a 4-year-old girl, served 10 years in prison, released in 1973, and a week after his release, he was arrested for assaulting a woman at a gas station. He bonded out and vanished for 17 years. Nobody even knew where Franklin Floyd was. And the whole time, he was living as Clarence Hughes, married to a 20-year-old woman named Tanya. 2 months after Tanya's death, police find Floyd in Georgia, arrest him on a parole violation, and send him back to prison. Michael, the 2-year-old, is placed in foster care with a couple named Ernest and Merrill Bean in Choctaw, Oklahoma. And that's when things get stranger. While Michael is in foster care, the state runs a paternity test, standard adoption procedures. They need to establish who the biological father is, and the test comes back that it's not Franklin Floyd. Michael's biological father is unknown. So who is he and who is Tanya? In 94, Floyd is released from prison after serving his sentence, and immediately he starts fighting for custody of Michael, a child that isn't biologically his, a child he gave up 4 years ago. But Floyd has money now, 80 grand from Tanya's life insurance policies. He hires lawyers, appeals court rulings, and he wins visitation rights. Ernest and Merrill Bean, Michael's foster parents, fight for him every step of the way because they're trying to adopt Michael. They've been raising him for 4 years. The courts say that Floyd has rights, and he earns supervised visits. September 12th of 1994, Franklin Floyd walks into Indian Meridian Elementary School in Choctaw, Oklahoma. He's carrying a gun and he takes the school principal hostage at gunpoint, storms into Michael's first grade classroom and kidnaps the 6-year-old boy. The FBI now gets involved immediately. Floyd's face is all over the news. Kidnapping, armed robbery, hostage situations. They find the principal later that day, tied to a tree in a park, fortunately unharmed. But Michael is gone, and the FBI starts digging into everything they can about who Franklin Floyd actually is, his past, his aliases, his criminal history, and they start looking into Tanya Hughes, because if Floyd isn't Michael's father, and Tanya was only 20 when she died, who was she? And here's where the story takes an even bigger turn. Floyd's photo starts appearing on TV news. The kidnapping is national coverage, and people start calling in all over the place. But not about Michael, about the woman in the photos with Floyd. Viewers recognize her, but not as Tanya Hughes. They recognize her as Sharon Marshall. Sharon Marshall is a girl who went to high school in Forest Park, Georgia in the mid-1980s. She was smart and popular with everybody, won a full scholarship to the Georgia Institute of Tech. She really wanted to study aerospace engineering, and the man in the photos, the one who kidnapped her, Michael, that wasn't her father. That was Warren Marshall. Except Warren Marshall and Clarence Hughes are the same person, Franklin Floyd. So now investigators have a new question. If Floyd isn't her husband or her father, who the hell is Sharon Marshall, and where did she come from? So investigators start tracking down Sharon Marshall's history. She shows up in the school records in Forest Park, Georgia in 1983, enrolled by her father, Warren Marshall. Teachers remember her, straight A student, ran for junior class office, had glamour shots made for her campaign posters. But they also remember something strange about her relationship with her father. One teacher said that Warren was obsessed with Sharon, took constant photos of her, talked about how beautiful she was. She even told her friends that he had bought her lingerie. Those same friends said that Sharon was afraid of him, that she wasn't allowed to go places without his permission, that something felt wrong. Sharon graduated high school in '86, won the full scholarship to Georgia Tech, but she never went because, according to her friends, she got pregnant at 18. And Warren, her father, wouldn't let her go to college. She gave birth to a baby girl, but put her up for adoption immediately, and then Sharon Warren moved to Tampa, Florida. In Tampa, Florida, Warren forced Sharon to work at a strip club called Mons Venus. She was 18, 19 years old or so, working under the name Sharon Marshall. In 1988, she got pregnant again and gave birth to a boy, Michael Anthony Hughes, the same Michael that Floyd kidnapped in 1994. In 1989, Sharon and Warren moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and that's when they changed their identities again. Warren Marshall becomes Clarence Hughes. Sharon Marshall becomes Tanya Dawn Tadlock Hughes, and they get married in New Orleans, legally on paper. Clarence is Michael's father. But here's what makes this insane. The entire time Sharon was growing up, from the time she was enrolled in school in 1983 to the time she died in 1990, she believed Warren Marshall was her father. She didn't know she'd been kidnapped. She didn't know her real name, and she had no idea who she actually was. So now investigators have a new timeline. Sharon Marshall shows up in 1983 as a teenager raised by Floyd under a fake identity, dies in 1990 as Tanya Hughes. But who was she before 1983? The FBI starts going through missing persons cases, girls who disappeared in the 1970s, around the time Floyd was first released from prison. They interview Floyd in prison. He's not cooperating, refusing to answer questions about Sharon. Years pass and Michael's body is never found. Sharon's real identity remains unknown. The case goes cold. But in 2004, a journalist named Matt Burpeck publishes a book called A Beautiful Child. It tells Sharon Marshall's story, the kidnapping, the multiple identities, the mystery of who she really was. And that book goes viral. Worldwide interest peaks and people start sending in tips, possible matches for missing girls from the 1970s. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children gets involved, starts collecting DNA samples from families of missing girls. But Sharon's DNA is degraded. The samples from her body aren't usable. They hit a dead end again. until someone realizes something. Sharon had given birth to a daughter in 1989. That baby she put up for adoption before moving to Tampa, that's the one. And if they could find that daughter, they could get DNA to identify who Sharon was. So investigators tracked down the adoption records, find the daughter. She's an adult now and goes by the name Megan. They ask for a DNA sample and she agrees. In 2013, the FBI reopens the case. Two agents, Special Agent Scott Lobb and Nate Furr, spend several days interviewing Franklin Floyd in prison. He's on death row now, convicted in 2002 of murdering a woman named Cheryl Camesso, one of Sharon's co-workers from the strip club in Tampa. Floyd is 70 years old, uncooperative as hell and evasive, but over the course of hours and multiple interviews, he starts talking. And Floyd tells the agents a hell of a story. In 1974, he was living in North Carolina under the name Brandon Williams. He met a woman at a church. Her name was Sandy Chipman. She was a single mother of 4 kids, struggling to make ends meet. She was on the verge of losing custody of her kids, so Floyd, having some money at the time, offered to marry her, be the father of her children, and help support her. She said yes. In 1975, Sandy Chipman writes a bad check at a 7-Eleven, gets arrested and sentenced to 30 days in jail. While she's locked up, Floyd takes the kids, all 4 of them, Sandy's 3 daughters, Allison, Amy, and Suzanne, and her infant son, Philip, nicknamed Stevie. When Sandy gets out of jail 30 days later, the kids are gone and Floyd has all but disappeared. Weeks later, 2 of the girls, Allison and Amy, are found at a church in North Carolina. They're returned to their mother. But Suzanne and the baby Stevie are nowhere to be found. Sandy spends years searching for her children, files missing persons reports, begs police for help, but Floyd is a ghost. He uses multiple aliases and moves constantly across the country. She never finds them. Floyd tells the FBI agents that the oldest daughter, the one he took, was named Suzanne Marie Sevakis, born September 6, 1969. She was 6 years old when he kidnapped her. For the next 15 years, Floyd moved Susan around the country. Oklahoma City, Georgia, Florida, Texas, gave her different names, different identities, and raised her as his daughter. Abused her, took explicit photographs of her starting when she was 4 years old, and told her that her real parents had abandoned her and he'd been the one to rescue her. In 2014, the FBI compares DNA from Sharon Marshall's daughter Megan to DNA samples from Sandy Chipman and her surviving daughters. It's a match. Sharon Marshall, Tanya Hughes. Her real name was actually Suzanne Marie Sevakis. 24 years after her death, they finally know who she was, and the FBI contacts Sandy Chipman and tells her what they found. Her daughter Susan, the little girl who disappeared in '75, died in 1990. For 15 years, Sandy had been searching for a daughter who was already dead, and Susan had died without ever knowing her real name, without knowing she had a mother who loved and had been looking for her, without knowing she'd been kidnapped. So there's one part of this story that I'm sure you're itching to know about, but it's also not pretty. Michael Hughes, the 6-year-old boy that Floyd kidnapped in 1994. For years, Floyd claimed that Michael was alive, that he'd placed him with someone who he trusted that would take care of him. But he refused to say where, and in 2013, during those interviews, FBI agents Scott and Nate finally got Floyd to tell the truth. The same day Floyd kidnapped Michael from school, September 12, 1994, he drove him from Oklahoma towards the Texas border, and Michael was a 6-year-old, so he was acting like a typical first grader, fidgety, asking all these questions, not sitting still, and according to Floyd, it pushed him over the edge. So he pulled over the car on the side of the road, shot him in the back of the head, and threw him in a ditch. Floyd told the FBI agents that I shot him twice in the back of the head to make it real quick. Michael's body has still never been found, and in 2014, the FBI searched an area near the Oklahoma-Texas border where Floyd said he had put him, and they never found anything. So here's what we do know. Franklin Delano Floyd kidnapped Suzanne Marie Sevakis in 1975 when she was 6 years old, raised her under multiple identities, abused her for 15 years, forced her to marry him, and then she died in 1990 at 20 years old. Likely murdered by Floyd, but not something he's ever been charged for. Her son Michael was kidnapped and murdered by Floyd in 94, and Susan's real identity wasn't discovered until 2014, 24 years after her passing. Franklin Delano Floyd is still alive, 79 years old, on death row at Union Correctional Institution in Florida, convicted of murdering Cheryl Camesso and kidnapping Michael Hughes. No execution date has been set. Suzanne Marie Sevakis was buried under the name of Tanya Hughes, with the inscription "I'll always be with you" on her tombstone. In 2014, after her real identity was confirmed, her biological father, Cliff Sevakis, and her siblings held a memorial service for her. Her daughter Megan, the baby she gave up for adoption in 1989, attended, and it was the first time Megan met her biological family. Suzanne Marie Sevakis, Sharon Marshall, and Tanya Hughes. 5 different names across 20 years, and she died without knowing which one was hers. This was a hell of a story, guys. I hope you liked it. Thanks for checking out my channel. If you want me to cover anything particular, drop it in the comments, and I'll try to get to it when I can. I'm trying to put out 2 to 3 videos a week. Let me know what you want to hear.